Good evening and welcome to tonight's question and answer session. We live in an era where change is constant and accelerating. Trying to keep up to date is a full-time job. By now, the advantages of electric vehicles over ICE cars is widely accepted. The driving force behind the adoption of this technology is Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla. The legacy car builders have been dragged kicking and screaming to the EV revolution and are now playing catch up. So tonight's Q&A will focus on the company that started it all, Tesla, and the man with the vision, Elon Musk. His endeavors encompass many other groundbreaking achievements. The company was founded in 2003 by a group of engineers who wanted to prove that people didn't need to compromise to drive electric, that electric vehicles can be better, quicker, and more fun to drive than gasoline cars. Today, Tesla builds not only all-electric vehicles, but also infinitely scalable clean energy generation and storage products. Tesla believes that the faster the world stops relying on cars, the very popular Model 3, the Tesla most frequently seen on Salt Spring. And new this year, the Model Y, available in rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. The prices range from $55,000 to $70,000, and that is without incentives. So tonight's expert is Julian Sale. He is the owner-operator of Motorize, which is a family-owned business operating since 2008. He only sells used electric vehicles, including the Tesla. And Julian is a big supporter of the EV movement. He regularly attends every group EV event here on Salt Spring and has donated funds and equipment to help roll out our charging network, including chargers at Island Savings, Country Grocer, Fulford Hall. Motorize is the largest seller of used EVs on Salt Spring. And Julian is one of the most knowledgeable people I know when it comes to EVs. There are two locations. This one is the Sydney location. And the other location is at 1671, the Island Highway. And this is actually where all the vehicles are displayed. So welcome, Julian, and thank you for making yourself available to share your knowledge with us tonight. To ask Julian a question, click on the chat button, type in your question in the box provided, and hit return. Now I'll ask all attendees to please mute your audio and cancel the video.
Questions. Until I see a question come up, I'm going to ask everybody, what's the last thing you learned about your Tesla?
That's a good question.
And I'll tell you one of the last things I learned about mine, because I don't see any questions here, but one of the last things I learned about mine is that the car visualization when you're in park shows whether your wheels are turned to the left or right. So if you jump into your car in a dark parking lot, in a parking space that you've never been in before, and you can't recall whether there's a curb adjacent to your front wheels, you can, without even having to turn the steering wheel, you can just look at the visualization of your vehicle, and if the wheels are straight on the car on your screen, your wheels are in fact straight. And if they show cocked sideways, that's exactly where you are. So it can help you in a ultra poor visibility, unfamiliar place. What do we have here? Marcus says, the new update shows some better energy info. Marcus, are you talking about like how it plots your energy for trip consumption?
Yeah, now you get a graph that shows your average consumption over 10, 25, or 50 kilometers since your last drive, and it shows your projected range under the conditions you're driving, which is a bit more accurate than the number you get percentage-wise or kilometer-wise of expected range.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting thing that you just touched on there, Marcus. I don't know how many people here have made comparisons between, your estimated range remaining, on the top of your left column on your screen. versus what that, like how the trip meter works. If you use the trip meter, like if you enter a destination into a Tesla vehicle's navigation system, if the vehicle knows where you're going, then it has a start point and an end point. And it's extremely good at calculating the amount of battery energy you'll consume and how much you'll have left over when you reach your destination. And I find this to be a way more useful tool if you're leaving your home area and you're driving somewhere that you don't normally go, especially in inclement weather. For example, I was driving up to Cowichan with a trailer the other day. I had to pick up some lumber in my Model 3 and then make 2 steps on the way back. And it was 0 degrees and I had an extra person in the car and I had my son. So I got him to video a bunch of interesting stuff. We ended up shooting a whole bunch of empty pickup trucks. And I'm like, well, who actually needs these pickup trucks anyway? You can do it with a Tesla and a trailer. Anyway, I shot a little video and the car was within 1% accuracy of its range prediction and consumption. Even though I was towing a trailer, I didn't speed. I went 10 kilometers an hour under, but the Tesla was crazy accurate twice in a row, and I videoed the whole thing. So I'll have a YouTube video popping out on that soon. Very interesting. But yes, thank you, Marcus. The trip meter thing is way cool. What does it say here? Play button, Marcus. That you don't have one yet. Yeah, John needs to get a Tesla. Buy some stock, sell the stock when you have enough to buy a Tesla. Since the last software update, it seems like the region doesn't kick in as quickly. Oh, regen. I hate autocorrect. So David Payne, the regen should kick in exactly the same as it did with any prior update, but there is a big difference in how much regen you have available in cold weather or when you are near a full state of charge. So your Tesla, regardless of what it is, has a crazy amount of regen capability. There is a user setting. You can have standard or, I don't know, less. I can't remember what they call it. But if your battery's really cold, you'll notice on the top of your, there's a little indicator bar on the left-hand side of your screen that goes horizontally, and it actually sort of slides to one way when you're consuming energy or spending power, and it slides the other way when you're regenerating power. If you notice that your car doesn't have a lot of regenerative braking all of a sudden, or at the beginning of a trip, you can actually look at that little bar and you'll see it move as you press the accelerator and then let off. If you see little dots to the right-hand side of that bar, then battery power is limited. If you see little dots to the left-hand side of that bar, then regenerative braking capacity is limited. And those are usually limited because of temperature or state of charge. You can't regen a lot when the battery's charged up to 100%. So that might be an explanation for why you had less regenerative braking seemingly after the update, but probably unrelated to the update. I hope that answered your question. That orders get postponed 1 to 2 years. So Lindsay Eaton, to everyone, you learned that orders get postponed 1 to 2 years. I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Oh, I was just trying to be funny because I ordered a Cybertruck.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like they're not coming for a while.
Yeah, you'll have to wait. I'm sure it'll be worth it. It'll be really cool. I ordered one. I don't have any money to pay for it, but hopefully one day I will. I think it's cool. Yeah. I had a commercial worker visit me today. He owns a auto detailing place. He's one of my competitors actually, and he borrowed my workspace today. And he was going on about how excited he was to put a cargo rack in the bed of the Cybertruck that slides out, something with a big waterproof seal around it. All his tools can be in it. And yeah, he's like already planned out what he's going to do for his mobile work setup in a Cybertruck. I think this will be the biggest commercial success truck ever produced. It's going to hurt the other domestic makers in like immeasurable ways. So congratulations on your Cybertruck order. What else do we have here? How can we convince Tesla to participate in the Scrap It program? You'll never convince Tesla to participate in the Scrap It program because the Scrap It program is poorly run and tiny. The Scrap It program used to technically function in a way that would work for Tesla because the dealers that were participating in it, who are all gas car dealers, by the way, there is no sole EV store or manufacturer offering the Scrap It program. But the Scrap It program is from the New Car Dealers Association of British Columbia, selling carbon credits to make a profit off the consumer. So anyway, so Tesla approached them and said 2 years ago that they'd like to be in the Scrap It program because the consumers were asking it of Tesla. But for the amount of paperwork that was involved, it just simply wasn't worth it for Tesla. The reason being that instead of doling the scrap it credits out amongst all the dealers based on who has the volume to consume these credits, they instead decided to give every dealer 28 credits, and that's it. That's what they did 2 years ago. And Tesla said, well, that may last some dealers 2 or 3 months of customers, but that would last, if we open at 10 a.m., that would last us until noon. So why are we going to do 2 weeks worth of paperwork to offer a program that's going to help customers for 2 hours on one day? No. So that's it. Now, consequently, if they had stuck with the old rules at Scrap It and allowed Tesla to participate in the program and allowed Tesla to take their fair share, Tesla would take 90% of, or probably 75% more like it, percent of all the Scrap It funds available. So the other dealers would feel ripped off. But that's just a measure of Tesla's success, not Scrap It's failure, you know? So anyway, no, you're never going to see Scrap It at Tesla. And sorry about that, because it is kind of a good program for people who have old cars. What else do we have here? There's lots here. Yeah, we aspire to owning a Tesla. Do you know if the people who list their Teslas on Turo get lots of rentals? Yeah, quite a few actually. It's starting to get popular. You'll notice on Turo that there are cheap Teslas and expensive Teslas, and there are cheap Teslas rented for expensive money and expensive Teslas rented for cheap money. They're all over the map. In addition to that, we're seeing Airbnb owners are buying Teslas and including them as a sort of tag-on product to go with their property rentals. So yeah, these things are popping up on the rental market, and they do pretty well. I rent out my Tesla sometimes. Yeah, it's good. And as an owner, you can always see where your car is, so that's easy. Tire pressure is shown with. John, to everyone, that tire pressure is shown with. Is that a question about tire pressure, John? I don't know. Yeah, John asked a question about tire pressure. We'll get back to that, I guess. Betsy Johnstone, how can we convince Tesla to participate in the Scrap It program? Okay, so we answered that. For bodywork or glass replacement, can you go through a regular body shop, or do you need to go through Tesla? David Payne, that's a great question. I just inquired with Boyd Auto Body and Glass in Sydney today for my Model 3 because it's for sale and it's got a chip in the glass. So they said they could fix the chip. I said, how about we do a claim and put a windshield in it? And he said the glass has to be ordered from Fernie's. It's on back order. That's the factory Tesla glass. And only Capital Glass is authorized to install that glass in Victoria because they're the only people who have sent their techs to Tesla for the training. The glass is a structural part of the car. The roof is glass, so the structural bond is critically important. And I guess a lot of body shops aren't willing to invest to train their technicians. So Capital Glass is it. I have not confirmed whether Fernie's in fact has these things on back order, but I'll likely find out tomorrow. But yeah, so if you want a claim or a glass claim, Capital Auto Glass is your place, and they have 2 locations in Victoria. It's one on the Colwood Strip and one in Sydney. Bodywork, for bodywork stuff, David, you sort of can go anywhere, but you should go to a Tesla certified shop. It's an aluminum, well, an S and X are pretty much all aluminum. 3s and Ys are steel. Yeah, I guess technically you can go wherever you want, but I would pick a highly reputable, a high quality shop if you're getting body work done, because there's lots of places that don't do great work. I've seen them all. Regen seems late. Got that. Limited half charge. Oh, okay. Yeah. John Moore says, I've also noticed that regen seems late in taking full effect. I get messages stating that it is limited when I'm only about half charged. Yeah, if your regen is limited when you're half charged, you're probably dealing with a cold battery. That's likely to happen when you first jump in the vehicle and before it's really been through a drive cycle. But once you've driven maybe 5 to 10 kilometers, the battery should be warmed up or more warmed up, and those little dots on the left side of your power meter should fill in as the battery comes up to temperature, and then you'll resume full braking power.
Okay, thanks. I'll watch the dots.
Pardon me?
I'll watch the dots.
Yeah, you watch those dots, little rascal dots. Yeah, keep an eye on them. Hello, Tom Mitchell. Marcus says, are you able to sell used Tesla imports now? I heard that Elon made it possible. Yeah, we are. I've got a spreadsheet going on these things. And so the Roadsters have always been eligible for import into Canada. The S and the X, up until about 16 or 15 months ago, the S and the X were not eligible for import into Canada. And there were a few different reasons. Ultimately, the import process requires Transport Canada to get authorization and clearance from the auto manufacturer that no outstanding recalls exist on the vehicle. And if any do, the vehicle is not supposed to be brought into Canada until they're resolved. And if a vehicle does land here, you can't get a registration for the vehicle in any province in British Columbia until the recalls are cleared. And whether there are or aren't any recalls on the vehicle is technically irrelevant with Tesla, because Tesla wouldn't even provide the document which says whether there are or are not open recalls on the vehicle. So that was kind of a showstopper for Transport Canada. So nobody could bring these things in except for a certain few Roadsters that were produced. But subsequently, Tesla has made this information openly searchable by Transport Canada, so they can confirm whether vehicles do or don't have recalls. There was another issue where in the States, if you ordered an X or an S with a white interior, the red button on the seat belts in the States is white, not red. And according to Canadian safety regulations, the seatbelt release button must be red, not white. So there were a few Teslas floating around that people tried to import even after this happened. And these people were forced to buy new seatbelts or make some funny little modifications. But I probably would have just painted them red. But anyway, yeah, so there are a couple funny things. Now, as far as dollars and cents go, I've been making the comparisons. I think if I bought US long-range all-wheel drive Model 3s used and brought them into Canada, I probably would only stand to make like $1,500 compared to what they're going for locally here. The US dollar's pretty weak right now, like weaker than it's been in 12 years. Which makes it seem pretty good to buy US stuff. And I'm sort of flirting with US inventory right now, but I've been getting such good deals on Canadian inventory. I haven't bought a single US Tesla to date. They're all Canadian. And there's not much money in those, but there's even less money in US ones. So Model X performance, Model Y performance, the super high dollar brand new stuff, I might be able to make a buck, but I run through money pretty fast when I'm spending, 60, 70, 80 grand a pop. I could have like 10 Fiat 500s for that, and they make more money. So yeah, bringing stuff out from the States, not really right now, but sometime in the future, if the numbers work, we will. And private consumers are free to do it too. It's not hard. From John Lugsden, what are the typical prices relative to list on used vehicles, and what is battery life turning out to be plus cost of replacement batteries? Yeah, that's an interesting question. So what are the typical prices relative to list on used vehicles? So like typical prices in general, or as a comparison to new cars? Or John, can you chime in on that one?
Just trying to get a feel for what the rate of price decrease on used vehicles is relative to new.
Yeah.
Whether they hold their value really, really high or not. And then, the issue comes up of, well, what about battery life? Because batteries are super expensive to replace. Then,
yes.
You're buying into a car that has limited life, essentially. So that's really the question: is the used market, does it make sense or not?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll do my best to answer that question. And to be honest, every single product that we buy has a limited lifespan. So it's no surprise that EVs do too. But the way it plays out may be different than you think. And essentially, kind of, similar to internal combustion in a way, they all start off brand new and they all end up getting recycled. How long they last in the meantime and how much maintenance and further financial support they require to keep them running is sort of up in the air based on what you drive and what you choose to do with it. Used EV prices, so basically, you got to consider this. Used EVs start anywhere from about $7,000 and go up to as high as you want to go. You buy a $200,000 used Porsche Taycan Turbo. So yeah, they're all over the place. In terms of things like Tesla Model 3s, it's really close for a lot of people. So I'll give you two different scenarios that will drastically affect the value of a Model 3 used sitting on a lot as it relates to the value of a brand new Tesla that you can order. So if somebody goes over to Tesla and they've never bought an EV before and they've never taken advantage of provincial or federal incentives, and they want to get a brand new Model 3 Standard Range Plus, most popular 3 they produce, the consumer is going to get $8,000 in tax credits on the purchase of that vehicle, which is a big number. The car's like 56 grand, less your 8 grand, plus freight and PDI and dock or whatever they charge. And then, so you can take the bottom line on that. We'll say it's like 53 grand out the door or whatever it is. And then you might go to a used car lot and you look at a car that's 18 months old and has 30,000 K and has, a thumbnail size curb damage on both rims and, a dog chewed on the door handle a little bit or whatever. You just call it a used Tesla Model 3. And that car's like 49 grand. And so you might think, well, why on earth would somebody pay 49 grand for this car when I can go to Tesla as a non-EV owner and I can get the 5 and the 3 and get a brand new car for like such a minute amount of money more. And you get a newer car with 1.5 years extra warranty, with a heat pump, with a couple extra goodies and no miles. Well, it depends on the customer. That customer who's never bought an EV before should go straight down to Tesla and just go buy the brand new one. The used car is not for them. But the used car it becomes way more valuable to that same customer who says, okay, well, I've got a Toyota RAV4. It's a 2016, say book value is $20,000 for this thing used. So if they come to Motorize and they're looking at the $49,000 used Tesla Model 3, and I say, oh, the book says your car's worth 20, I'll give you 20 grand for it. They're like, oh, cool. They can do the math, throw the tax on. They got the bottom line. They go shop with that same car at Vancouver Tesla. And Tesla says, oh, your car book's for 20 grand. We'll give you 9 grand for it. And then that customer's like, hold on, what? And there's no negotiating. You don't sit with a salesperson and go back and forth, and they don't wait for you to make a decision. Tesla's a finely oiled machine, okay? And they don't mess around. It's quite impressive, actually. But it comes at the consumer's expense when it comes to trade-ins. Tesla doesn't have time. They don't want to see your car. They want you to take some photos of it, and they ask for specific photos. You send them in, but that goes into a computer. A person doesn't even look at those photos. They use artificial intelligence to look at the photos, grade the vehicle, take the VIN and the mileage, and spit out a number, and that's the number. And that number is always low because they're always going to take those things straight to ADESA or Mannheim Auto Auction. Tesla is what they call a power seller. All of their trades go through the auto auction, and they sell for wholesale money. But Tesla's actually making money on those trades, but they never have to sell them to customers. So in order to make sure they're always winning on the back end and winning on the front end, they offer really, really low trade-in numbers. So, as I mentioned, the definition of the customer determines the value of the used car on the lot, because the person with no trade is going to buy the brand new Tesla. But the person that has the trade is going to get an extra 9, 10, 11 grand from me, and I'm just going to sell the car to a wholesaler for what I paid for it. So, it depends where the customer's coming from. The other customer that is important to acknowledge is the customer who's already bought an EV, who took advantage of the federal and provincial tax credits and maybe maxed out on at least the federal tax credit and wouldn't be able to get it again on a new car. So a non-incentivized new car is way more expensive than an incentivized new car, further pushing the price difference between the used car and the new. So if somebody's already taken their tax credits, then they might not see the math as favorably on a new one. So that's why. That is why you see used EVs selling for close to the price of new. Like I've got a Kia Niro coming in. It's the first Niro I've ever had. You can't get a base model Niro. Nanaimo Kia's got one, and it's like 46 grand. Well, I've got a used 2019 with 3,000 K, and it's also going to be 46 grand. But the thing is, when the one in Nanaimo is sold, they don't have any more, and they only have the premier models, which are 10 grand more. So now I'll have the only $46,000 Niro. So yes, they hold their value very well. And yes, they make sense for some people, but it depends on a number of factors. So I hope that completely answers the first part of your question there.
Yeah, and I don't want to dominate the discussion with that question. I typically buy, historically I've bought vehicles, 3-4 years off lease.
Yeah.
Generally, it's been Saabs, it's been Audis, and that basically gives me, 50% off selling price. So
yeah,
it makes a fair difference. And on the other hand, my son won't give up his 6-year-old S, which I think he really should. He should just pass that on to me and get a new one. But he
should sell it to me.
I won't direct him in your direction.
Then I can sell it to you.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, yeah. So what I was wondering, and of course with the 3, it's early, but with the S's, is there a significant turn-in, lease inventory, which I imagine you would be right on to if there is, but that's generally where there's been a fair bit of discounting it from original value, and I certainly get the incentivized purchase versus the non-incentivized one.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of leases coming back because Tesla didn't start leasing in Canada until 2018. So, and they were 4-year leases. So we're kind of like a year away from mass lease returns. And they'll go straight through the auto auction. So they're not going to show up at Tesla. They're going to show up all over dealers all over the country. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any lease returns come back from Tesla, but I am buying used Model S's all the time, and they're rad. Like we can sell them for, I've got a 170,000 K P85D, which is a sweetheart car, but it's got high mileage, right? 170 K, but you can get that car for 38 grand now, I think, with 2 sets of tires and wheels. So it's like they're starting to come down in price to the point that, people who would look at a used BMW 7 Series or a used E-Class or S-Class, they're looking at the Tesla like, hey, I could drive that. So they keep getting cheaper.
So then the question becomes, and again, I don't want to dominate this. The question becomes, there's lots of cycles on that battery.
Yeah.
How long does one have until you got to replace the batteries?
Well, you got a really long time, but I would go into it cautiously, just like buying any other luxury or performance car. If you buy a $40,000 used Model S, first of all, just like buying any car, it doesn't matter whether it's electric or gas or anything else, the car should be in good shape, like shocks and wheel bearings and struts, and the sunroof should open and close and the windows should go up and down, and hopefully everything's been serviced and everything closes and opens and everything works, right? That's what you want.
Yeah.
But I've seen Tesla Model S's that needed 10 grand worth of work. I've seen a couple that needed rear motors that were beyond, like, a high mileage car that's been going 100 miles an hour up and down the 401 through potholes and who knows what. I've seen taxi cabs with 450,000 K on them, like Model S taxi cabs from Montreal that have been run in -30 for 6 months. I've seen it all. So it would be foolish to think that you could buy a $40,000 used car that used to be 100 grand and not put any money into it. So I would say you look at it the same as pretty much any other, car purchase of that stature. It's not a Toyota Yaris. But having said that, the most expensive repairs I've done on Model S's be a sunroof, $2,800. Then I had another car that had the same problem. Customer took it home, fixed it in 3 hours. He was a mechanic. Door handles, $400 on Teslas. I don't know. Rear suspension linkage, $1,000 for 5 new links installed. But it's like suspension stuff. I don't know. They're pretty reliable, but yeah, I think they're a screaming value. I would never buy a non-electric for any reason. And then cost of replacement batteries. Maybe we should leave that into we could do another video on that or something like that. But yeah, people don't actually buy batteries. They trade cars in and buy a new car is what they do. And then some consumer who doesn't need 400K or 300K or 200K, some other consumer buys that car because it's the perfect fit for them. But it's not going to go to Port Hardy and back on one charge if it's 10 years old and has 300,000 K on it. But a different customer would think it's awesome for ripping around the city. So you don't replace the battery, you replace the owner. When will we see a more accurate image of the truck production model? Kai and Michelle, hi guys and girls. I don't know. More accurate image of the truck production model. Are you talking semi or are you talking Cybertruck? Kai and Michelle, you're probably muted. Maybe they're gone.
Cyber.
Yeah, I don't know. I was 20 feet away from the Cybertruck 2 weeks before it was unveiled, but I couldn't see it because there was frosted glass separating us, and I've been dreaming about that thing ever since. The Cybertruck is a little bit smaller, but I don't like. Apparently, the design is completely finished on that truck, so I can't imagine what it looks like. I kind of, in the back of my mind, think that they would have had to make changes to taillights and bumpers and headlights in order to conform with, mandatory government standards. But I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I know, like, basically they're working on tooling on that thing right now. So maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. I will tell you one cool thing about the Cybertruck, though, that you guys may or may not know, but a few desert racers, drivers that race a Baja 500 or Baja 1000, got together and started bashing Elon and called him out and said there's no way a truck like that would ever work in the desert. And Elon said, well, actually, I'll show you. So when that thing comes out, it's going to come out like a sledgehammer, and I'm sure it's going to achieve some pretty impressive feats as kind of like the most kick-ass pickup truck of all time. So I don't really have anything else on the Cybertruck, sorry. But I will tell you that there was a new sort of redesigned semi spotted on the roads of Texas a couple of days ago. It's not really the same as the last, like it's an iteration change. Just showed up today or yesterday. Barbara, you asked what is the benefit of buying a used Tesla over a new one. I think we probably covered that a couple of minutes ago. If you're looking at a new or used, get a quote on a new one, look at a used one, get a quote on that, and then, just think it through and make a comparison. And yeah, I can help you with that, I guess. But from John Campbell, you seem ambivalent about the Scrap It program. Julian, what should we do with old gas cars when we upgrade our lives to EV? Well, if the Scrap It program is intact and available, and there's an EV that you like at a Scrap It participating dealer, go to the dealer and buy the car and get the money for your old gas car. Use the Scrap It program. The way it, what the Scrap It program does is pretty slick. It gives you more money than your old car's worth. Hopefully, it's supposed to be a financial move in the right direction. So yeah, go for it. In theory, the system works awesome. I think that some dealers choose an inventory item that might not be an amazing car. They make that EV available for the Scrap It program, and they use the Scrap It program as like a little incentive to get people to go onto one car and get that car out of the way. So I've had complaints from customers who had an experience here and there, said, the only car on the Scrap It program that's available from such and such a dealer is this one, but they have 10 other EVs. I want another EV, but why can I only have that one? I don't know. They do funny stuff, but if you have an old car and it's destined for the scrap yard and you can get $6,000 for it on a new EV, you should go buy a new EV. I think that it's a great it's a consumer win. So do it. From
Julian,
John
we have a couple of questions from David Payne on maintenance issues.
Yeah.
The rims, can we protect our rims from curbs? It's a question I'm interested in. And
that's what the steering wheel's for.
Maintenance. Sorry?
I said that's what the steering wheel's for. I don't know what else you want me to say there.
Can we protect them?
Yeah, there are. Well, yes, with the steering wheel. But no, there are a couple of products that you can get that stick on the outside of the rim. One of them is called Alloy Gator, and it's basically like I was going to say Teflon. It's not Teflon, but it's like UHMW or some kind of really hard plastic. And it's like kind of like it's like that strip you put on the side of your door, but it just wraps around the rim. The only thing is, because your wheel spins really fast, it's got to have like this little connector piece that holds the two ends together. So it looks like a nice round ring around your rim, and you can do it in any color you want, including gray or silver, so it doesn't show up. And they're like about, I don't know, $200 or something like that for the set, plus labor to put them on. I don't sell them, but lots of dealers do. If you scrape curbs a lot, then they're handy and they'll save your rim. But if you scrape a curb with one of these protectors on, then you'll have this ripped up, torn up, hamburgered piece of plastic hanging off your wheel instead of a ripped up, torn up rim. and then you're going to go buy another set and have them put on. It's like, anyway, I touched a wheel on my Model 3 on a curb at my kid's school 2 days after I got my new wheels on the car. And like literally, it was the most terrible thing. The car was wider than I felt, and the nose drops down really quick. And I've been driving a Leaf for years, and I got in the 3, and it took 2 days to hit a curb, and I don't hit curbs. But yeah, it's a wide car. The wheels turn so effortlessly, and they're wide wheels, and the wheels are pushed pretty far out in the wheel well. So at the end of the day, if we can all understand that it's a wide car with a lot of rubber on the road, with low profile tires, then hopefully we'll stay away from curbs. But I will tell you that 99% of the Teslas that come in for detailing have curb damage on the wheels. Like it blows my mind. One of my business partners just bought a new Model Y Performance, and he's got the 21-inch turbines on there, and he was in for some PPF film, and I'm like, Ron, what happened to your wheel? It was just destroyed. And he's like, he blames it on his wife. But yeah, they're huge wheels, and they sure do look good, but they scratch easy when you rub them on concrete. Do you want to buy some wheels? What else do we have here? Windshield wiper response on auto is very inconsistent, despite a supposed upgrade a little while back. John, you're not wrong. I never use auto. Although it's supposed to be learning. Tesla's trying to use the camera differently than other automakers use the camera. As like right above your rear view mirror, there's a camera that gets wiped by the wipers, or that the field of view gets wiped by the wipers. So the camera is supposed to know the difference between a raindrop and not a raindrop. But the problem is for the camera trying to identify rain is that like it can identify a blurry image, but if you don't, okay, so when you first get your car, the windshield's very hydrophobic, water beads up and flies off it like crazy. But after like 30 or 40,000 K or something like that, you really need to recoat your windshield with something. And I don't care if it's a Rain-X, which only lasts a month, or if you use something like Glaco or some better product that lasts a couple years, you should coat your windshield with something, especially in front of the camera. And make sure that your glass is spotless and clean in front of the camera, because it's trying to see stuff, and it needs to rely on being able to identify water drops. But still, automatic wipers with rain sensitive controls, I think they kind of suck. So I just manually control mine, and you can use voice command for that too. So what else do we have on here? Windshield wiper response. What is your recommendation for routine maintenance, cleaning and checking brakes, replacing air conditioning filter, windshield wipers? Better to go with Tesla or to use less expensive local mechanic? Well, routine maintenance, you can kind of go anywhere. Although I took my Tesla to Canadian Tire to have a rim replaced because I hit a curb, and they wouldn't work on it, which was weird. But yeah, I use Canadian Tire in North Saanich for inspections and stuff. If you have a neighborhood mechanic on Salt Spring, like I know there's a few people over there that have mechanic shops, and I think they like Harold Harkema. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he's an EV guy. Yeah, cleaning, checking brakes. Okay, so the cabin air filter is huge, like once every 2 years, probably. It's a way better filter than comes in every other car, and it's way bigger. So yeah, every 2 years would be fine on any Tesla. If it's an S or an X, you can wait longer because the filters are like 4 feet long. They're huge. Routine maintenance, yeah, if you hit the occasional pothole, rub curbs back into things, you're driving around on rough, jagged roads, and there's salt and gravel and debris, then yeah, you should have your car checked out probably twice a year. It should go up on the hoist and have a brake and a suspension inspection just to make sure nothing's damaged. If you ever hear anything clicky or any little suspension noises, like my Model 3's got a sort of a clunk on the front right. I think one of the control arms has got a little loose or something like that. So it's covered by warranty, but basically you should occasionally, even if you just wanted to do your own checkout, go to a parking lot with nice pavement that's flat and in really good condition, and just drive around in like 3 or 4 right circles with the steering all the way locked, and start and stop while you're turning, and then do the same thing going the other direction, and make sure your car feels tight and, you know, doesn't make any squeaks or groans and doesn't make funny pops and bangs or do anything like that. And, you know, if you go 30 kilometers an hour and the wheel's dead straight and you pound on the brakes hard, your car should stop super quick and the steering wheel should stay dead straight, assuming you're on flat pavement. So if you want to do your own, you know, quick vehicle diagnostic to make sure you haven't bent a control arm or smashed a wheel in a pothole, that's kind of how you do it. You know, when I take a customer's car in on a, like if I'm trying to come up with a trade-in value and somebody's like, hey, how much will you give me for my blah, blah, blah? I'll take it to a parking lot, drive it around and put it through the paces. And if it does everything it's supposed to do and it's quiet, you're probably good. But yeah, a couple times a year, that should be checked out. Tesla, this is from Marcus. Tesla was going to give me $17K as a trade for my 2018 Volt on a 2020 Model 3, and Julian got me $25K. Yeah, I don't like selling Volts. Nothing but trouble, those things. No, well, yeah, that's Marcus. That's back to what I was saying about Tesla and their trades. They know that they're just going to take the car straight to ADESA auto auction in Vancouver, and they're going to fire that thing out at wholesale, and wholesale on that car was probably around 21 grand or something like that. So that's why they build a little buffer in and just throw you that number. So I'm glad you got 25K. If it wasn't COVID, you could get on a plane and go to Mexico with all your extra money, but now you have to sit at home. Your description of the Tesla sales process is extremely helpful, Julian. Thank you. No problem, John. Yeah, at least there's no messing around. They're super easy to deal with. Any suggestions on protecting the wheel rims on the Model 3 aftermarket products? It's really annoying how easy it is to scratch those things. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered that. Stop hitting curbs, basically. I hate to say it. I've hit curbs too. Cyber, I read that they were going to do a reveal in November. Well, they did a reveal last November. I think Tesla will probably produce a couple units in the finished trim and start driving them around, and they'll be picked up by social media. That's what I think. Answered already. From David Payne, I have some leftover silver touch-up paint from my silver-colored Nissan Frontier that I used to cover up the few wheel rim scratches that I've gotten. It works well to masquerade them. Yeah, you can definitely put touch-up paint on there. I mean, so if you hit a curb and you scrape a little bit of paint off, you can use fingernail polish if you have it in the same color. You can put whatever you want on there. Now, your rims aren't going to rust because they're made of aluminum alloy. But they can look pretty gross if you've actually got a sort of a jagged, you know, abrasion on the rim. But if push comes to shove and you need it fixed and they're driving you nuts, you can bring it over to Motorize Detail Studio and they'll fix that for you. And if they're really bad, there's a mobile wheel repair place. It's like a little factory in the back of a truck. And they'll come by and pick up your car, take off all 4 wheels or however many are damaged and pull them into the back of the truck and strip them and repaint them and put them back on. Right on the spot. So if you can send me a message or an email and I'll put you guys in touch if you need that. Have a truck come over to Salt Spring and fix everybody's curbed wheels. For those of us with other EVs, the 5 biggest differences between them and Tesla. Barbara, for those of us with other EVs, are you asking me what are the 5 biggest differences between them and Tesla? Well, that's kind of a loaded question because vehicles are kind of multifaceted in, you know, how they're built and what they do and how much they cost and what they're designed to do. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a really difficult question to answer. Tesla does things a lot differently. They're not a car company. They're an energy company, and so they don't care about what other car makers care about. They don't build the same thing. They're not really. So Tesla's not really a car, I guess, because of the ideas that go into it. It's a lot more than a car. Yeah, if you need a hatchback, you know, look at a hatchback EV, and I'd say Nissan Leaf is probably the best out of the bunch. If you need a wagon, the e-Golf is pretty awesome. You know, they're all a little different. If you want a carbon fiber car that'll never rust and doesn't dent, buy a BMW i3. They all have their own personality. They all have their own quirks. They all have their own weaknesses and strengths. So yeah, I could tell you for 10 hours about, you know, all sorts of differences in every EV, and we wouldn't even get to 1% of it. But if you want to know what the difference is really, drive every one of them. And I think my store has pretty much every one of them, and nobody else does. So if you want to know what's the difference between all of them, get in them. We can have a conversation. I can show you what's built, how and where and why and how they work, and you'll be an expert by the end of the day.
Julian, I wonder if she was referring to things like supercharging network, over-the-air updates, those things that are unique that you're not going to find in other cars.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. I mean, yeah, unique to Tesla. Well, we'll start with safety. Safety is the #1 priority in that car. That is a safer car because it wasn't designed by automotive engineers. It was designed by engineers. Yeah, so the safety is a big one. The battery tech and performance is another one. The efficiency is another one that is unmatched across all other manufacturers. They're unmatched. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. The screen and the driver cockpit is probably the nicest I've ever driven in the Model 3 and the Model Y. You have more visibility. The handling is top notch. Like there's just so much. Yeah, I mean, you know, like when people say to me, "Hey, I got 50 grand and I want to buy a new EV," I'm like, "Okay, do you need a sedan or a hatchback?" And if they say I have to have a hatchback, it's like, cool, you've got like 6 to choose from. There's a whole bunch. If you need a sedan, then it's going to be a Tesla. And most people know already what they want. And if they've made a decision that they want a Tesla, they'll just buy the Tesla. Some people don't care about any of those cool things that I just mentioned. I've had customers that come in and they're looking at a Kona and they compare it against a Leaf and they compare it against this and the Model 3 and all that stuff. And they can drive all the cars and then get out of one of them and say, oh, well, this, Nero was the best thing I ever drove. This is amazing. And I'm shaking my head thinking, you know what? The Nero is a good car. It's a great EV, but it's like you're paying 50 grand for a $50,000 car. With the Model 3, you're paying $50,000 for a $150,000 car. So yeah, they both cost the same, but one of them's not the same as the other. So yeah, what's better about the Tesla? Lots of stuff. But still, you know, like if you're interested in EVs, just literally go drive everything and then you'll know for yourself. Where did we get here? Any insight into Tesla service center opening in Victoria anytime soon? Rumors of them purchasing. Yeah, they did buy the old Volvo dealership location. That is a fact. There's a bunch of juggling going on. Yeah, I know who they're hiring for mechanics. They don't officially say anything. They don't have a PR department, as you know. So they haven't said a darn thing. Tesla does try to work pretty quick. That place is already zoned for automotive service. It has parking. It has everything that they need to make a great service area. And I know who the next mechanic is that they're going to hire, and he is amazing. He's a Tesla owner. So I don't know. I would speculate 3 to 6 months and it would be open, but I could be way out to lunch on that. Nothing concrete. No such even pavement on Salt Spring, Marcus Wenzel. If you had 50K and the choice between a used S or a new 3, which would you suggest? I'd buy a 3. And I actually like the S more than a 3, but the pace of innovation is so quick that a new 3, like given a new or used Tesla for the same money, I would spend the money on the new Tesla, because if I was to buy a new 3 right now, I'd get a cool heat pump. I'd get, I'd rather buy a Y, but you can't get a Y for 50. But yeah, I would go for the latest generation car because the Teslas hold their value so well. You could drive the thing for a year and sell it and not lose anything. Whereas I can't do that with a used S. I find my Donna Atia said, I find my new Model 3 is like driving a new computer, not a PC and not a Mac. Lots to learn, but exciting. Yeah, Donna, I don't know if you've had the time to check out the tutorials that are built into the computer. Have you checked those out? There certainly is a lot to learn. I'd kind of like to get in a car and go through everything with people, but the problem is I no, you can't, Betsy, buy a new Y from us. Yeah, I kind of like to do a video to sort of go through everything that I know about the 3 and the Y, because unfortunately it sucks to do the same presentation like 50 times. So I think I better just put it into a video. And I just heard from Greg Samborski, my media guy, that the video about the range consumption towing a trailer behind the Model 3, that video just got done. So I'll put it up on YouTube tomorrow. I'll give you the link, Jim. Where are we? I watched a video with Elon today, and it convinced me that I should save up for full self-driving as I get older, or wait for full self-driving to go on sale. Well, Donna, they have put full self-driving on sale a few times. According to the big man himself, it's supposed to be getting more expensive over time, and the value of the software will climb over time as it becomes more usable. And when it's really going to reach a tipping point is when, you know, multiple meaningful jurisdictions around the world allow autonomous full self-driving. And when that happens, people who have it are going to make excellent use out of it, and those who don't have it will want it. And at that point, it becomes uber valuable, and the price will skyrocket for those who own cars with full self-driving and those who are just trying to buy the software. And at the same time as that value skyrockets, so will Tesla's earnings, because the more desirable it becomes, the more it's worth, and they're selling software. Like, the car comes with the hardware. So yeah, who knew big software sales were coming from a car company? Very clever. Compare the Model 3 and the Model Y differences. John, great question. There's more differences than you might think. The Model Y is physically larger in a few different ways. The whole vehicle sits taller. It has deeper cargo. I don't know what we call those cargo holds in the front and the trunk. So you have more depth. So there's a bunch of stuff that's the same. First of all, I'll tell you what's the same. And it's basically like the battery and the drive motors and all that stuff are the same. The tires and brakes have slight differences, that like the calipers and the wheel hubs and everything are the same. The tire sizes are different. I've had a couple of customers try to put Model 3 tires on their Model Y, and they don't work. They physically fit, but they're way too small. So yeah, basically the Model Y shares a lot of components, like the screen, the dash, and a lot of interior parts are shared between the 3 and the Y. The seats are absolutely identical. They just built a little taller seat block to lift the seat up a little more. But the Ys all came with a heat pump, and the 3s just got a heat pump for 2021. So the Model 3 had to sort of catch up on a few little features that the Y came out with right out of the gate. But essentially, the Model Y is really intended for people who need a little more room. Now, another difference between the 3 and the Y is that the Y, the rear glass, the hatch glass lifts with the glass. So the Y is a hatchback, whereas on the 3, the rear glass is fixed, and you have a steel trunk that opens and closes. So if you need more cargo carrying capacity, the Y is going to offer that. Otherwise, they both drive very similarly, and they both are quite similarly equipped. Betsy, no, if you want a new Y, you have to go to Tesla, but I can give you a referral code, which might one day get you something, but probably not. Does the full self-driving stay with the owner or the car if sold? It stays with the car. Yeah, it stays with the car. Interestingly, if a used car that has full self-driving is sold to Tesla and Tesla resells that car, they may turn it off. In fact, they probably will turn it off so they can sell it again. But if a used car with full self-driving is sold privately or through a non-Tesla dealer, the full self-driving stays on. So it adds value to the car. However, in my best estimation, the full self-driving is only worth about $2,000 on the used market right now. But in the new market, it's $10,600 to buy it, I think, right now. But I've sold, like a bunch of these things, and yeah, to the best of my guess, it's $2,000 is the difference that it makes in the used car price, which makes buying a used Tesla with full self-driving probably a pretty good deal. Julian, do you get Model 3s with full self-driving? Yeah, we get them all the time. I don't have any right now, but in the last 2 months, we've sold 3 of them, and there's more coming in. They do show up. Donna, my new Model 3 has the heat pump. What are the advantages? Okay, so a couple things. Any car that has a heat pump, any EV that has a heat pump, likely also has another resistive or capacitive heater, which is just like a ceramic heater that you would have under your desk to warm up your cold feet. Those ceramic heaters use a fair bit of power, but they crank out a lot of heat, so they work pretty well. The idea with the heat pump is that it uses a compressed gas and relies on thermodynamics. Now, lots of manufacturers have heat pumps, but Tesla's got a system called an octo valve, and the heat pump is basically equivalent to what's on the back of your fridge times 2 and able to run backwards. It's just a plumbing setup that's really cool. And essentially, the biggest problem with heat pumps in all applications for automotive or residential or commercial or whatever is that they only work within a certain temperature range. And you couldn't really make a heat pump work in really cold temperatures. Like we're talking below minus 15 Celsius is kind of like, they don't work as well there because they need a differential between, they need a hot side and a cold side. So if it's cold outside, there's just not a lot of thermal energy available to make the system work. Tesla figured out a way to create a thermal difference inside their heat pump that no manufacturer's ever been able to do before. So they've created a hot and cold side inside the system that needs a hot and cold side. So it's kind of like a little self-fulfilling prophecy there. It's pretty cool what they've done. Nobody else has done it before. So the heat pump is really efficient. And if you want a temperature differential of like 4, 5, 6, 8 degrees in your car, the heat pump can do that. So if it's 0 degrees Celsius outside and you want it to be 20 degrees Celsius inside, the heat pump's only going to account for a portion of that heating capacity, and your resistive heater is going to take the balance. But as soon as your car gets up to like 15, 16 degrees inside and you still want 20, well, the heat pump can take over and just maintain that gap of 4, 5, 6 degrees. So the heat pump is a really important part of your car if you want to conserve as much energy as possible while heating and cooling. Hope that answers your question. And Martin says, as ever, you are a font of information. Rad. Well, I guess that's a wrap. It's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, indeed.
How did we do? Does anybody have any questions or jokes for me? I feel like we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think that was really good, Julian.
Thank you.
Are there any desperate questions out there? Because I think we are at that time.
Very stimulating.
Woo!
Hey, Julian.
Do you think we should do this again, guys?
Yes.
That's a yes from John. Some thumbs up kind of things.
Perfect.
Okay.
So yeah, we can
Julian.
do it again. I got to do one for the Comox EV Club on March 8th, so we can't do it then.
Oh no, we got March 8th booked for you.
Hey, Julian, what do you think of the new steering wheel on the new refresher on the S and X?
Okay, I'm of two minds. Okay, so I was watching this journalist that took a Mercedes out for it was a Mercedes electric car that was at a press event on a runway in Germany somewhere, a abandoned runway, and Mercedes had this big press event. So I got this car with this aircraft fighter style steering wheel, and the journalists were in it and they thought it was awesome until they got to the end of the runway and they had to turn it, and it was like too big and it hit their knees and everybody was going to crash the car. So it was a bit of a nightmare. Like, it looked awesome, but it didn't work. And so some people complain, you can't have that in that car. But then again, well, if it's good enough for an F1 driver and a kart driver and all sorts of other motorsports, they probably find a way to make it work. Now, Tesla's an engineering company, and they just don't put in things that don't work. So if they've got a flat top and bottom steering wheel, I can only speculate that it's been through plenty of testing and they're really happy with it, because if they're not happy with it, they wouldn't put it in the car. So I think it'll be awesome because that's their philosophy of engineering. Some other manufacturers might put a funny looking wheel in there thinking it'll help sell cars and not really prove it. But I think Tesla works really hard to make sure their products are the best they can be, given the materials and, knowledge they have. So I think it's a win.
Just another quick speculative thing, Julian. What do you think of potential bi-directional charging with Tesla?
Probably not going to happen anytime soon. And well, okay, so like with Tesla Powerwalls, you mean?
As well as the Tesla Powerwalls, have the cars able to charge your house as well.
Well, okay, so if you've integrated Powerwalls into your home electrical system, you can technically already do that, sort of. Like they're physically capable. But if you don't have Tesla Powerwalls, then it's not going to happen, because Tesla needs to integrate with their own stuff, and their cars aren't really set up to pump out energy. Like, unless Tesla was making the equipment to interface between the house and the car, then they're not.
Yeah, but say you didn't have sun for 2 weeks or something, you could always drive your car somewhere else and charge it. You can't drive a Powerwall anywhere.
No, you can't drive a Powerwall anywhere. But yeah, if you have a Powerwall, you've got lots of energy flexibility. If you don't have a Powerwall, then there's no quick, easy way to drag power out of your Tesla unless you want to go through the 12-volt battery to pull that power out. But that's pretty cumbersome.
Thank you.
So you can run a small amount of power out of it. You can run an inverter and run a fridge or a freezer or something like that. But there's no easy way to pull big DC power out of that battery.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, you guys and girls, I hope to see you again, and it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thank you,
Julian, thank you. Knowledge is impressive.
Anytime. Hope you all enjoy your evening. Bye for now.
Okay, bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.